Good morning and welcome to Mindful Mondays by CBD and Me Parties. It's a part of our Healing Power of Hemp offering to bring creative and innovative ways that you can have holistic health and wellness while at home during the coronavirus. And today I'm really excited to have a friend and a colleague on, Avital Miller. And Avital is going to be talking about her journey through her life around the space of healing and mindfulness and really cultivating that sense of inner balance and peace within. And Avital is quite an accomplished young woman. She is a keynote speaker. She's a healing breakthrough facilitator, global dancer, best-selling author of the books Healing Happens and Practice. And she inspires people to experience boundless energy, absolute happiness, and true success. What a great combination of intentions, Avital.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to have you on our CBD and Me Party's Mindful Monday. We've been using this space to really cultivate opportunities for going inward and journeying within, and especially now during this the craziness that's been happening over the last couple of months has really shifted people's patterns, their life. Often their stress levels has affecting their sleep. And so I was hoping today we could talk a little bit about really your journey into what you do now, the coaching work that you do now, and the space that you create for folks, and how you came about both of these wonderful books. Yeah, for over a year now. So, and reading and enjoying.
Thank you so much. And it's just an honor and so much fun to be here with you and get this opportunity to share. And I just commend everyone coming online virtually and making sure that you're finding ways to still live your life and get creative with that. And that's one of the keys that I like to tap into with what is this process of health and healing. And what was the thing that drove me over the years to get to that place? And I started as a kid just not feeling in alignment with the environment around me. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate in some ways to, just feeling disagreement with your family, with their beliefs, at certain times or just certain people. And I was like this little Buddha or something. I mean, I was energetic and played with everything, but I also spent a lot of time just in my room alone, sort of creating space for a different vision about life. And then my mother watched Oprah with me, and then she played Tole for me. So she initiated that way of being. And I grew up in a Jewish day school, and we had a rabbinics class where that's basically all about morals, about how to live. So really the seed was planted at a young age, which meant that when I hit that wall, when I hit those hard points in life, I already knew that there was something better and something more. And you might be able to relate to, what are those moments that you had a hard time in life, and then how did you respond to that? Did you let it just draw you down? I mean, maybe temporarily, but at a certain point you're like, all right, how do I pick up my bootstraps and move on? And what am I going to do about that? And I think the first point for me was actually when I was a program manager at Microsoft, because I was manicured, right, to get good grades and get a great job. And some of you might relate, and a very steady job. And I did well in school in math and science. So it was very practical for me to go into engineering. But I was way more fascinated about people and how to support them more directly. And I'm sitting in this job, it's great company, and I'm like, there's got to be something more to life. And I literally quit and started traveling around the world. I remember my dad saying, you're only supposed to do that when you retire, not when you're young. And I said, I don't want to wait till I can't carry a backpack.
That's right. You have to flip the script from the older ways of thinking to figuring out what is your true compass and what do you need. I love it.
Yeah. And during that time and seeing other cultures, because I left US, I had a paradigm shift. And I come back to US. I start studying yoga in terms of the spiritual components. Before that I did it in the gym a couple times. And I was like, oh, this matches this new understanding that I created about life. And I'm like, let me dive deeper into this. And I got certified in yoga at a school that's like a mountain retreat. There's a living community there. There's people who've been there for over 40 years at that point when I went there. I've been meditating for that long. We talk about an example of mindfulness. But yeah, I didn't see myself there till I was old. Most of them were old. So I'm like, I'm young, let's go live life. And I'm going and I'm living life, and I'm a yoga and fitness teacher trainer, and I'm teaching classes all over, and my hair is falling out, my muscles are turning to fat, like I'm getting weaker than my students, concerned I might be at the job, as you might be and others might be, when you can't do your hobby or your job. Like right now, some of you have actually experienced, right, that feeling of what is it like to be out of the job. And I was nervous at that time that was going to happen for me, because I couldn't do it, couldn't handle it, couldn't get back into it right after this pandemic was over. Like this is some permanent thing that keeps dwindling. And so I started to do research and explore different options. But also around the same time, I was in an abusive marriage. And I was really looking at this point, the people in the community saying they are so solid, like they've got it all figured out, and they're so strong and they're grounded. Not like some of the hippy dippy community. They might have been hippy dippy in the 70s, but they're pretty grounded by this point. And I'm looking at this. Well, I'm in this marriage that's awful, and so now I've got physical things going on, but I really feel like I have confidence to build, like I could find more happiness within myself and within God, divine spirit, not from this outer circumstance. So I'm not as reactive to what's happening with my partner. So I start looking at the emotional, mental, and spiritual layer to be healed, the whole thing combined. So I move into the urban community. That way I could still have fun out in the world and focus on my spiritual path. And like literally, as I start to go into this path of mindfulness, of meditating more and more regularly, the doctors are tapering me off of the medicine. That's when I started leading healing programs, because I'm like, well, this could happen for me. What could happen for other people? And I meet other people who had more extreme stories. I was just going to be uncomfortable for life and on medicine, but other people were told they were going to die in a few months or a few years, and they turned that around. And they were all different kinds of health and healing and all different kinds of disease. So that's when I started interviewing people and going into this book here, Healing Happens, Stories of Healing Against All Odds. And it's, so there's over 20 diseases. There's 17 health and healing experts of all different kinds. So we've got the expert opinion. They've repeated these results on their clients. We have things that we can do in just a minute or two, which people have found to boost their health, to boost their energy, to boost their joy. So that's one of them. You're asking about this other book. Practice. And I mentioned living in the yoga community, so I could speak just very briefly about what is that kind of mindfulness, emotional, mental, spiritual healing. And when I started on the practice and started to feel a sense of calmness, I really went, gosh, I don't want any other influences. I want to just focus on this 100%. And that's when I moved into the mountain retreat, into the more isolated environment. And it was like bliss, absolute bliss for the first few years. And then I woke up one day and I'm like clutching the bed, like something's wrong. Like, I don't know what, but like something's off in my life. Like it's just this intuitive hit, this magical moment, but you're like, what could be? It's been so perfect. And it took about 3 years to fully come to the understanding and the courage to leave the community and to realize, oh, okay, like this has been amazing. And it's not in full alignment with who I am and who I feel like I'm meant to be in the world. And so that was probably even more difficult than leaving my ex-husband, because I was under the impression that I would lose my connection with God if I left the community. And it was so hard to break that bond, to say, well, maybe God has a different definition than what I'm thinking about here. So in this book, it's an anthology. So it has my story in one of the chapters of what I went through to actually leave the community and what's spirituality to me today. So that these are all yoga practitioners kind of turning up the tables on us to say, what are our challenges today, and how do we look at spirituality? What's the impact on our lives?
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate you taking the time to tell a little bit of the backstory and the journey that you went through. And I think that there's, the theme that I heard throughout, or perhaps because of also going on retreat and spending that time in silence, I think can really be curious for folks who have never practiced it. When I've shared with people, the longest retreat I've ever done has been 8 days. But that's been the most special, beautiful, evolving, peeling back of a silent retreat for that long, and really just taking that time for myself. And I'm sure you've heard the same thing. Often people will come back and say, I can't even imagine spending 1 day in silence by myself. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the healing that starts to happen when you start to go inward and tune in, both from your story and the people that you interviewed. In both your books, Healing Happens, as well as the practice. Because I think that's it's a space that I'm glad to see more people talking about during the pandemic, of how do we leverage all this extra time that we have at our house and not just constantly be filling it with external stimuli, with the people that we might be living with, or that longing, right? That like such loss of identity because we're not externally connected to the world. So tell me a little bit about your inward journey and that space of solitude and mindfulness and silence and healing.
Yeah, well, and it was really a great preparation for the pandemic.
You probably were more prepared than anyone I know.
It's very, very true. And even with that preparation, things still come up. And sometimes I feel like we just have better tools or more tools to deal with what comes up, because we're constantly evolving and shedding layers of the onion. Living in the center, and I was helping lead the yoga teacher training program as well as other retreats in the retreat center. So I got to watch people like from start to further down the path, to just see what happens to somebody in a weekend of relaxation and meditation. What happens to somebody in a quieter environment and in nature, and what happens to somebody after a month, after a few months, after a few years, like how drastically people change. So it gives you that mirror, and then you go back and you start to see your life in comparison to how was it a few hours ago? How was it a few years ago? What is that difference today? Now, the first thing to keep in mind is that most physical disease in the body is based from stress. And so this is like tips for how do we boost our immune system as well, is simply figure out how you're going to reduce stress. I mean, is it changing something in your life so that you don't have that stressful thing anymore? And just getting creative with how to move on from that situation. Is it changing your attitude about something so that your response to it is not a response of stress? Like, do you have more appreciation? We could look at the pandemic right now and we can say, like, I get annoyed sometimes because I knew, like, as soon as things started and we started to lock down, I knew that this challenge was going to hit everyone. Whereas before it wasn't hitting everyone. And I knew the economy would crash to some degree, and people would go into depression, and like suicide rates would go up because we don't have the tools on average to deal with being here by ourselves. And there's more stress added on to everyone's lives. And then stress builds into those emotional and those physical things. But just shifting our attitude for the pandemic, now somebody's sending around a video, and you can watch some of my meditations and things too to help you, but somebody's sending around this bedtime story video and just explaining actually, well, what was the benefit of the pandemic? Well, we got to really to rethink how we're living our lives. We actually spent more time connecting with some people that we don't normally do. We called our parents more, like we checked in on them more. we cleared the air, right? Because we don't have as much pollution going on. And it's like the wind changed directions. The skies are clear, like the water is clear in Venice. Like, a friend of mine was telling me all the parts of the world impacted by this. So that's one way to deal with stress, is just to look at a situation differently. But the easiest thing to do is to sit in meditation for 5 minutes. You start there. And then when it becomes more enjoyable, you go to 20 minutes and maybe you do more. And then you really turn off the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. You go into the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response. And then all the body things that were triggered in response to your body being in stress slowly unravel and slowly shift into that place of healing, of going back to what your normalcy is, and maybe even stronger, more empowered you. I like to think of this time as all of us being in a cocoon. And everyone's going to come out at different times. That's the thing. Even if the rules say, okay, you don't need to stay at home anymore, not everyone's going to come out right away. And we don't know how long we need to be in the cocoon, but the cocoon feeds us. It builds the butterfly wings. And if they talk about stories of somebody breaking a cocoon open too early to let the butterfly out. They're like, oh my God, it's struggling. Let me let it out. Well, it's not going to.
Because it's a natural process, right? Yeah. Yes.
It didn't fully build its wings. So now we get that impact of like, all right, well, what's happening emotionally? Like, you watch your life, like, okay, I'm calmer now. Like, okay, I don't get as bothered by these people acting this way. I have more energy. Woo. Like, I just in general, I'm more creative. Like, I'm smarter. I'm more intuitive. Like, I have more magnetism for more success coming in my life. People are more magnetically drawn to me. Interesting. And you just watch as you explore with regularity, taking these practices on in your life.
Yeah, really beautifully said. The power of observation, right? I think, and being able to be a witness to your experience is one of those first steps of being able to then gain greater perspective, and really starting to live with greater intention, is part of the journey that I've experienced and others in this space of the pandemic. And what the cocooning has done is been really able to create greater stillness and silence. And part of what we do at Healing Power of Hemp is this mindfulness-based approach to hemp health and wellness, and helping people tune in and say, for a minute each day, if it's just 1 minute of closing your eye, connecting to your breath and asking, hey there, body, how you doing today? What do you need? We put it in the context of flourishing. Like, what do you need to remove the barriers so that you can live a life that you love with your body? Tuning into your emotions. How are you today? How are you feeling? Being honest with all of them, non-judgmental with the responses, and gently listening and responding. If there's one thing every day that you could do for your body, that you could do for your emotions. The third is we have people tune in with their mind. What's your mind telling you? Where is it at? Is it scattered everywhere? Is it overwhelmed? Is it exhausted and shut down? Or instead, as you said, like, am I feeling more alert, more focused, more creative? And what do I need to do to cultivate more of that in my life? And the fourth thing that I've been practicing daily and that we encourage is really tuning into your emotion or your intuition and listening to that still silent voice within. I like to feel that it's the voice of the divine flowing through me. It's the voice of knowing that universal path that we're on. And the closer we are to being on the path we're supposed to be on, perhaps this was part of your awakening in the mountains of realizing it was time to sort of shift to come back into the world. It's when you take the time and you carve out the space to listen, so much beautiful insight begins to come into you and through you. And And we can't truly, I think, heal ourselves from the inside out and the outside in until we begin to practice that. And I think your point in the research says like just 2 minutes a day of breath work and meditation can literally change the gray matter and the chemistry inside of us. And it could be as easy as just pausing for a moment to check in, to doing a 30-minute or longer meditation in silence or guided. It's just such a special journey. And I'm thankful that on a large scale, from babies to people at the end of life, that the space of stillness and breath work and meditation aren't just being considered only woo-woo or only associated with particular religious practices, but rather a self-care. It's always with us, right? It doesn't matter how much money we have. It doesn't matter where we live. It doesn't matter who's in our lives. We always have ourselves, and we always have our breath to turn inward to. And in that way, it's the most accessible healthcare, self-wellness thing you could do, I think.
Brenda, I have a question. Would you share, and maybe even the scientific side of it too, of how the impact of CBD relates to the impact of meditation? Because it's my understanding that CBD kind of helps us in a similar way that meditation does.
Yeah, I'd love to chat about that. It's actually a section in the book that I'm writing that will be published this summer that it's my favorite connection to CBD. We say that we're a mindfulness-based hemp health and wellness company because we see that tie being so critical. And I've actually been working with Vacation of the Mind with Brianna Bragg. I'm one of the certified instructors for her program also, and really putting together, helping people to see the connection on how hemp health and wellness through CBD can facilitate your mindfulness practice, facilitate your meditation practice, and help you go deeper, both while you're actually practicing meditation, but then tuning into that space even if you're not actively practicing. And it's because our bodies have a system that's responsible for regulating inner peace and balance throughout almost every major function that we have. It was discovered about 30 years ago, only really started becoming more publicly discussed, and even that is a stretch within the last decade. It's called the endocannabinoid system, and we share it with all plants and animals. And this system is like the traffic cop inside of us. It's the one who says, green light, red light, alert, call the ambulance. We need to respond to an illness, a wellness issue, a stress response inside of our body. And this system that we have, because it's responsible for creating inner peace and balance, it really is that first early warning system that says something's off. And a fact that I love to tell people that most folks don't know is that right now, even if you've never had hemp CBD or touched a cannabis plant of any kind, you have CBD all throughout your body. It's called endocannabinoids, and we produce them naturally, which is this, like, to me, when I love the idea of how connected we are to the earth. And I think about how we are to the sun and the moon and the water and the earth and all of the environment around us. And literally inside, our bodies create what this plant creates. But the problem is that we live in modern day world and in modern day circumstances where the vast majority of people, particularly in America, are in high stress environments. They're not exercising the amount they should. Their stress levels are very high. And when these things start to happen, our body stops making what it needs naturally to have that inner peace and balance. So we start to get this off kilter. And what science and research is showing us is that there's a connection between endocannabinoid deficiencies, our body's being deficient in its own natural production of CBD, and an increase in health and wellness issues. So when you take it from an external source, because most likely you're in balance like most people are to some degree or another, we start to fill in the gap. I see it as like little smiley faces plugging in all the holes in our body that need that extra love and nourishment and balance. So how does it relate to meditation and mindfulness, right? Well, we know that the top 3 reasons that people don't meditate, the very first one is like ability to focus. right? So I have a monkey mind, it's racing, I can't stop. I'm having all these thoughts flood in. Meditation is just not for me. That's like so often I've heard that. And honestly, felt it myself too. When I first started doing meditation, I'm like, man, maybe I need something a little more active, a little more movement.
I remember they told us to start with 5 minutes. So I was like, okay, but we had to sit there actually for 30 minutes in our yoga teacher training. So they're like, just close your eyes 5 minutes and then you can open it the rest of the time. So I closed my eyes 5 minutes and then I'd sit there just like drumming my fingers on the floor, like waiting for the meditation to end. Like I want to go do something.
And I think that like the first common misperception about meditation is that one, you're supposed to achieve absolute stillness and not thinking of anything. And if you don't, then it's not for you. And that when you become a master meditator, that's the end result. And really, I think it's such a friendly way to say, listen, it's more about that your mind is the sky and your thoughts are the clouds, and just notice them. Just start by noticing them. And what CBD does when you take it, from a mind focus perspective, is that it really, I refer to our tincture as mindfulness in a bottle. And I don't use it lightly, having been a yoga and meditation instructor in my own practice. What I find is that when I take CBD, it creates this calmness within my brain, that it starts to take all the clutter and the chaos and really brings the focus into this I can, focus on one task very fully, very completely, very groundedly. So it really starts to calm and quiet the brain. So it helps with focus.
Yeah. And may I
often
add to that also,
yeah.
Because what you want to do too when you're choosing which style of meditation. I mean, one of the stories in my book, Sam Shelley, like he started meditating without any techniques at all, and literally like started healing like lifelong bipolar MS and being suicidal. But most people are not going to be able to just sit there and meditate. So support like CBD, but also pay attention to what techniques are being offered that help you step out of the monkey mind, because you'll really be surprised if you just have the right things for yourself, how easy it can be.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's the part of really listening, and how is your body, your mind, your emotions responding to these activities? And they'll tell you if they're the right nourishing, nurturing ones. And I think pairing up those activities are also really important so that you can, I was going to say monopolize, but like really catalytically, ignite your experience so that you're getting those healing benefits. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the second way is really around the stress and the anxiety response. We know that folks often are gravitating to mindfulness practice because of stress and anxiety in their life. But sometimes the mere act of thinking about having a mindfulness practice or a meditation practice can cause stress and anxiety, right? So sometimes it can feed each other unless you've had that chance to stop and tune in. And similar to meditation, when you take CBD, particularly internally, what it starts to do is calm the sympathetic nervous system. It slows down the reactivity in the brain. It slows down the synapses and the triggers that typically would ignite a response of anger, frustration, or stress. And it calms it down and upregulates the parasympathetic nervous system. I love to tell a story of a good friend of mine who had never tried hemp products before, had a surgery on her knee, and she was really struggling sleeping through the night, and had been even before the surgery, but it was this compounding, effect. So she says, would this help me? It's like, well, we've had a lot of people who have great success with sleep, with pain, with stress. Why don't you try it? So she's trying it for sleep, and I get a call like 1 week later, and she's like, I have to tell you something. She's like, one, it's been amazing for sleep. Like, it's been incredible. And she was using the topicals that we have too, and it was helping her with her inflammation and pain. But the most like aha moment she had was that her reactivity and her triggering while driving in traffic and with her husband totally became almost gone. I mean, it was so insignificant. She's like, normally what would trigger me every day what he was doing, all of a sudden I didn't have a reaction to it. I was calm, I was grounded, and I didn't feel so on edge with life. And CBD for me absolutely transformed my life and gave me it back after I was failing to thrive with pain and chronic pain and inflammation, sleeplessness, and stress and anxiety from an accident I was in 5 years ago. And it's so incredible to hear the stories of healing of people who, we don't claim like CBD's the end all cure all, right? Like, I don't believe that to be true at all. But I do know now from my research, from doing this for multiple years and working with healing with others and my own story, that pairing it with a holistic health and wellness practice can be that missing ingredient that has not gotten you to the next level that you've been seeking. And honestly, for a while, I thought, like, I really believe in mind over matter. I had been meditating for 3 years straight every day post the accident, meditating multiple times a day. And I hit a point where I was only getting worse with my chronic cycle of issues. And I felt like either I wasn't good enough of a mind over matter person, I wasn't meditating well enough, and I felt like I was lost because I tried 50 different health and wellness practitioners and all different types of herbs. And I was eating well, sleeping, trying to sleep well. That wasn't working. And what I found was that once I added CBD, once I started to fill my cup of where I wasn't producing it on my own, then all the other things that I was doing got accentuated and everything came into balance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of pairing hemp health and wellness with a mindfulness practice or with meditation or healthy eating and healthy exercise, is it can be that catalyst that has been, you just can't get over that last barrier. So yeah, that's what I would say about that connection.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. I would love to let folks know, I know we only have a couple more minutes, and we have 2 copies of your book, Avital, that I bought from you when I first met you, and seeing you speak as such a dynamic speaker at our Achieve conference. There's the books. That's right. And these books are just full of, I feel like, light and hope and insight, and an offering to really reflect within with each person's story that you have here. We'll be reposting this broadcast throughout the week. And on Friday, we'll be doing the giveaway of these 2 books. And all you have to do to be entered into the giveaway is to comment in this video post below and make one observation on either immunity and balance, mindfulness and balance, or your own story of healing. There's no right or wrong response to that, just rather a level of engagement on maybe what this conversation has brought out for you and your journeys, insights you have, awesome resources that you want to connect our community to. And we will be shipping this out to you along with a complimentary CBD bath bomb. So you'll get a combo of the book and a bath bomb by commenting below. And we have just a moment left, and I'd love to offer you the space to share a final thought for folks right now as they are, I think, preparing mentally and emotionally to slowly uncocoon, to slowly become the butterfly on the other side, and what that might be looking like for them, maybe some insight that you have to share, and words of wisdom to leave them with.
Yeah, I'm going to say something a little bit scary in order to get you to that place, because I just read the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor. And one of the things that happened for these people who hadn't been eating for years, if they just came out and all of a sudden ate a usual diet, they got sick. And then the shift of being in this isolated, torturous environment to reintegrating the society was also very challenging. So what I'm going to encourage that people do, so they don't just all of a sudden go wild and become ungrounded, like not know how to control yourself, is think of your feet firmly on the ground, and you're going to take one step forward and the other step forward. Now, there's this funny thing of, we talk about sleep being so important, right? And a lot of people don't sleep well because of stress. And I started hosting these online dance parties, and that's one of the few times that I'm hearing the loud music. And I swear the music keeps playing over and over again in my head, and it keeps me up at night. So when you've been in a quieter environment and start reintroducing noise and activity, it takes the body time to adapt to that. So I would just be careful throwing yourself back 100% in the life that you had previously, and take your time. I know in a lot of places, like, we actually can't throw ourselves 100% in anyways, because there's still certain rules in place. So that's one way to value that, is that it gives us time in all layers to slowly reintegrate. And if you started a practice of meditation during this time, or if you haven't, but if you're taking a few minutes a day to ground yourself in balance with the more activity that's soon to be coming into your life, that will make a huge difference. And I'm always happy to help support people with that as well. So people can reach out to me. Facebook is always a good way to connect with me. And those of you probably see my name is Avital Miller. So Avital is spelled like Avital.
I love your name, and I love how you pronounce it. I need to remember to say Avital versus just the normal. I don't even know. Now that's all I'll say. I appreciate.
My name is I'll be tall.
I'll be tall someday, right? You're like, are you 5'3"? Are you
almost 5'3"?
You're adorable. I love seeing you on stage too, because you're so dynamic and gregarious and visual. You're visually very tall.
Exactly. That's how I'm growing.
That's right. I love the note that you're leaving for people. And actually, I think in terms of words of wisdom, as we reintegrate, this is probably the most powerful one that you could offer. And tying it to Viktor Frankl's book, I just vividly remember the first time and the third time and the fifth time I read that. And it's such a beautiful parallel to stepping into a space that's been removed for so long. And, I really invite folks to think about our experience dynamically, and that 4-part check-in of your mind, your body, your emotions, and your intuition that I got from Sarah Stover and studying with her 500-hour Shi yoga and meditation teacher training. Is essential, because while our body may feel like with dancing, a big vibrant dance party, that this is like, yes, what we've been waiting for, it may be that our mind is mentally exhausted by it. And that can cause like some weird internal conflict inside. So we really invite you to be intentional and tune in. We also are in Mindful May for Healing Power of Hemp. So if you find that you're looking for little sweet nudges of encouragement every day on our Instagram and Facebook page, we'll be posting tips for deepening a mindful practice. And it really, Mindful May couldn't come at a better time, given the transition that we're in right now. And I also want to plug Avital, your website. I would love for you to mention to our folks, I get your daily newsletters. You also do a daily offering of self-reflection for people. And it's so diverse. Like your topic really is widely ranging. And I think will connect to a lot of folks who are looking for kind of different ways to tune in and cultivate healing in their own life. So what's your website?
Yeah. Can I offer everyone another gift also?
Yeah. Oh, please.
No, and thank you for noticing that the wide range of topics, because the meditations that I lead are really geared towards directly addressing the challenges that you're having. And so I'm always asking people, like, what are the challenges that you're currently having? So it was really fun, like during the pandemic, because people were more vocal about what the challenges were. So I could just more clearly address, like, all right, how do you stay calm amidst chaos? How do you thrive in chaos? How do you thrive in a pandemic? How do you stay connected at a distance with people? And there's probably 100 recorded meditations on all these different topics in the meditation membership. And then we continue to do them live. And I'm offering a free month. It's kind of like a gift right now, because for a lot of people with challenges. So if you go to healing-happens.com, you can get the free month. And then if you want to interact with my newsletter, with my podcast, with my blog, with some of the other resources that I'm putting out there and the online courses and the book, of course, then go to healinghappensforyou.com.
Awesome. Those are excellent resources for people to tune into right now. And thank you for offering them to our community. The last little thank you that we have is a $5 gift card for anybody who uses Hemp Health on our Healing Power of Hemp website. You can order any order that's $50 or more. You get a $5 off gift card that goes toward that purchase. And actually, Avital also gets to benefit from this. So part of our CBD for a Cause that we launched at the beginning of the COVID crisis is our giving back platform. And we decided that rather than doing our daily and all of our viral virtual stuff just with our team, that we would partner with health, wellness, and beauty pros, even people in the hospitality industry and music industry that have been really cut off from their core source of income and their ability to feed their families and feel safe and stable, and dare we say thriving. So we're partnering with people like Avital and others. And part of the gift back to them is that they get 45% back of all of the purchases that are made using this code. So it's a way to both support Avital as well as say thank you to the work that you're doing in this world. And I really appreciate your time and your light and all that you're doing to support healing. And yeah, I look forward to working with you again soon.
Thank you so much. It was a joy to be here, and I'm excited for people to enjoy all of these gifts that we're offering today.
Excellent. Thanks, Avital. Thanks, everyone else. And we'll see you on Wednesdays for our edible Wednesdays that now include non-alcoholic beverages, smoothies, juices with CBD, baked goods, sweet treats, salad dressings, food, you name it. Wednesday's the day to get that lined up. And then on Fridays, we are continuing our Friday night happy hours with live musicians, artists, and really soon we're going to have a whole, we have 5 different stand-up comedians who are working on a performance for us that most likely will be next Friday. So I will post that tomorrow on our website and as well as our social media pages. And for now, everyone, blessings to all. Bye. Thanks.